Join the team.
Hey team, this is McGuire Review, and today we're going to take a look at the brand new Games Workshop Warhammer 40,000 Killteam Octarius. This is the brand new offering for Killteam. Now this is a game that's been out for a while. There's been a number of versions of them, expansions, new content that's released for this platform, but this is the brand new box set that just went on sale recently, and it is out now. It's not pre-order anymore. You can definitely get your hands on it. It's out there in retail. And there are a number of things that are in this box we're going to look at. What we want to do here is kind of a three-part series, and the videos will be separated, I would say, quite a bit from one another. Maybe the next one will follow relatively soon. But the first thing we want to do is look at what's in the box here and what is this game about, okay? You may be a gamer, and there's lots of different genres of gaming. Gaming is really a spectrum. We talked a little bit about, we had a video here on the channel about a channel update of what we're kind of doing go forward. And gaming is really a spectrum. And there's a lot of different types of gaming that are in that spectrum. And there may be just board gaming. You may just play board games. There might be people that just do tabletop warfare, miniature-based games. There may be people that just play card games. But just because you only do card games or board games doesn't mean that you wouldn't enjoy or like a game like this. Maybe you wouldn't, but it doesn't mean that you won't enjoy a game like this. And I've found a lot of gamers, some folks that just maybe play video games and don't do the physical tabletop games, see this kind of stuff and get into it and think, wow, this is really cool. Like I actually enjoy doing this form of gaming as well. So that's what we're really trying to do here on the channel, is bridge kind of these gaps between all these different types of gaming that's out there. So you're going to be able to find all that on this channel. So if you're interested in just gaming across the board, go ahead and subscribe, follow the McGuire Review, be part of the team here, part of the channel, and you're going to get to see lots of different cool stuff, all within that gaming space. But today, we're going to be talking about Killteam here. So Games Workshop is very well known for a game called Warhammer 40,000. Warhammer 40K, whatever you want to call it. They have other games like Age of Sigmar, and there's a number of other IPs and properties that they have that they make. Every time, let's make a video. Let's cut the grass! Let's ring the doorbell! And they make fantastic board games as well, and I've got a number of them here back behind us. Space Marine Adventures, Warhammer Age of Sigmar Crypt Hunters, Rise of the Orcs, here somewhere. I think it's over here. So they make a number of awesome board games as well. And we've done a video on the channel about how great Games Workshop's packaged, boxed games, they call them, or board games are. They're fantastic. This here is something a little bit different, but it's still, you can still think of it almost as like a board game. It's just going to have, I want to say, almost a little bit more freedom in what you're doing when you create that board and you interact with that board. So if we look at the box here, and we'll get this down below. So all this is right here is if you pre-ordered this, they offered, if you bought it directly from them, they offered this special metal combat gauge. So there are things in this game where you have to measure how far something can move or how high it is, and maybe you have an advantage if it's up high versus down below on a piece of terrain. And this little tool right here is the way to do that in this new version of Killteam, which I think is pretty awesome. This is a metal version. I haven't opened it. I'm not going to open it. It's kind of a special collector thing, and I'm just going to keep it. I probably will open it later and just display it, because they do offer one that's in plastic that comes with this set. This is in metal, and I will be painting the one that comes with the set, and that's the one that I'll use when I play. Okay. So we will look at the box here. It's a nice big box. It's very heavy because it's got a lot of stuff in it. Now, it does go retail for $200, $199, which you may think, well, that's pretty expensive. But once you see what's in the box and the amount of content that you're getting, that may or may not change your mind. It definitely changed my mind when I saw all the stuff that came in the box. And what we see right here is just the terrain. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, because today's video is just going to be sort of an introduction on what you're going to find in this box and what it kind of looks like and what the feel of this game is. Video 2 is going to get more into building all the figures, maybe a little bit of painting the figures. And video 3 is going to get into actually the gameplay, the mechanics, what that looks like. So I think it's going to be a really fun series. I'm really excited about it. You'll see here the box. It is pretty hefty. And then on the back, they do have a picture of all the terrain and all the models and everything painted if you wanted to paint everything. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the second video. But here's everything all painted and ready to go. Okay. So if we get the box open, there's going to be a number of things you're going to find inside. And this isn't a true unboxing. Here, Bear, hold this. This isn't a true unboxing. I've already obviously opened some of this stuff up. So I do have this little paper towel here. I'll actually just throw that to the side. You are going to find this book inside. This is one of the things you'll find, which is essentially a manual that just shows you how to put everything together. So how did I build this train? I had to have a little diagram, as you see here. It shows me how to take the specific pieces and put them together. Now, in their boxed board games, those pieces are going to be, we'll just say, a little bit easier to put together because most of those come with something called a push fit, which means you just take a piece, and it's designed with pegs and holes, and they go together. And you can essentially just press it together, and it snaps together. You can use glue if you want, but it's not necessary. With these types of titles, the Killteams, the Warhammer 40K, they're not necessarily push fit. Maybe some of the pieces are designed that way specifically for one reason or the other. But primarily, you're going to be building this stuff and you're going to be gluing it together. Okay? So what you will find in this box, outside of the books and other things we'll get to here in a second, are these sheets, which they call sprues. And this here is an example of models that can be built. I think these are orcs here. Yeah, these are orcs. This is an orc sprue. So these are all the pieces of various different, and there's a number of them, okay? In these various sprues that are included in the box, you're going to have all of you can think of them as your little models that you'll use to do combat. These are the commando orcs as well as the veteran guardsmen. You'll have a number of them each. You do get a decent amount of them, I would say, in comparison to sets that have come out in the past. This new set, you get a decent amount of each side, which is fun. You can scale that down or use the full amount of models depending on what kind of point game that you're playing, which is nice. And you get all of this terrain, and this is all the terrain. So what I wanted to do for this video, again, this is a more detailed build. You can see that these pieces are much smaller. They also offer a number of different poses and options. So you'll get a number of things on these sprues that, let's say you're building a veteran guardsman, and it's like he could hold a shovel. For this type, I don't want to go too deep into that. For this type of faction or group, they traditionally have these shovels, and that's a big thing for them. So you can choose, put a shovel in the back or the shovel in the hand. Well, I'm not going to have a shovel in the hand. I'll have a gun or grenade. So there's a number of different options that you can choose when you put these together in these sprues as well. And it'll all be right in the book that we took a look at. So it isn't like you'll just be guessing how something should be put together, or you have to create it and come up with it yourself. It'll be right there in the book. And you may want to build it because that's the look that you want for the model. You may want to build it that way because you're speccing that unit out specifically to have a certain set of gear or weapons that is all detailed in the book as well. Okay, so that's another reason why they give you multiple options. And then you're going to find a bunch of other sprues which are already all popped out here, okay, that built, and it's all of this, that built all of this terrain. So it came in these sprues just like we saw here with the units. You'd have a piece and you would clip that out of the sprue and then build it. So now let's talk about how do we do that. Okay, we do that with a tool like this. Okay, it doesn't have to be this one. Tons of companies make these little sprue cutters. They originally are not designed for sprues. Originally, these are it's a tool for an electrician or someone doing very small like metal wire work. that they're just little clippers, okay, little wire clippers, and they've been adapted into the gaming hobby world, and now companies make these, and some companies make them specifically for this. Games Workshop actually has their own branded Sprue clipper. It's a little bit different than this, but it's very similar. You can get these at very low cost, but they are your tool for doing this work. Don't try to do it like I originally started out, where I just used a straight razor, just like an X-Acto knife razor blade or something, and I would clip it off there. Yeah, sure, it works for the most part, but you slip and you rip through another part of the model. You can cut yourself. You don't get a nice clean cut. You'll get gouges. Just don't do that. These are very low cost. You can get them about everywhere, and you just want to get one that's small. You want it to make sure it has a small head on it. It needs to have that angle there, if you can see that, where it has a little bit of a, I'm not sure what degree angle that is, but it needs to have a little bit of an angle, maybe 30 degree. I'm not sure exactly what the degree on it is, but it needs to be a degreed, angled head, and that allows you to get that nice flat cut, or get in there at an angle and still have a flat cut and snip it, okay? Critical, you got to have one of these if you want to take your stuff out of the sprues. Just get one and invest in it. And it makes it such a faster process. I mean, you're just, you always want to go in with that flat side down, right? You always want to go in with the flat side against the model, okay? So the flat head piece of it is always against the model, so you have the cleanest, flattest cut when you're clipping it off of that sprue. And you'll find it's just like clip, 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 pieces out. Clip, 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 right? Especially when you're doing large stuff like this, where you're just taking all the pieces out, and you're looking at the book and you're just sticking them together. When you're doing these types of sprues, that clip out may be a little bit slower. I like to clip them out as I get the piece. First, just clip everything out and having it in front of me, then trying to find the piece. Everybody has their way of doing it, but that's what I like to do to make sure that I'm getting the exact piece it's talking about in the book, because some of these look very similar. You will find that as you clip these out of the sprue, and you won't be able to see this on the camera here, or maybe we'll do some Bear can hit us with some side-by-side camera view so you can see here. On the back of these sprues, there are actually like little numbers and letters. So it will tell you, like, hey, go get 16A, and that's the piece for this person's arm. Okay, well, I find here 16A. Here it is. Clip, clip. Here's the piece, and I glue it on. So that's how the sprues work, and that's how you cut everything out. Now, this will take some time. And that's part of the hobby. And some folks may not like that. That may deter some people from wanting to do a game like this, because they just want to buy a board game that the miniatures are just in the box, ready to go. Some of these you even have to put the miniatures together, but they're very, very simple to do. But let's say you just want to buy a board game. The miniatures are all built. They're all together. They're one piece. You just pull them out. You play. You can do that. I think what you'll find is if you give yourself a shot to do something like this, it becomes, and I want to be careful here how I say this, but I'll just say it becomes more of a hobby. And what I mean by that is you get to take sort of that enjoyment of by hand taking these pieces out, by hand building these pieces and gluing them together, maybe even customizing them, making a little battle scar gash here or a little slice there, or not putting a piece of the model on and using some kind of putty to create something else. I don't know. There's so many options. And then hand painting, if you want to. You can leave it all plastic if you want. I know there's some people watching this probably thinking, oh my God, the heresy. Like, leaving it all plastic. You can do that. It's okay. You can leave everything in gray plastic and just play and have a good time. You don't have to paint it. That's part of the hobby. It's fun to paint it. It obviously makes it more visually appealing, but it is not required to paint the model to be able to play the game and have a fun time. So it's all pieces of this hobby, and that's why I say it makes it a little bit more hobby, because you are physically crafting your way through this game. It's almost like for one price you get a game and a craft that's going to take you probably months to complete. Like for me to put all this together, I could put all of it together in a day or a day and a half of like here and there. But to paint all of this, it will take a long time. Unless I take time off and I just paint all day, right? But just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit fun, a little bit relaxation. It's also very relaxing to go through and paint all those stuff. It's fun. So That's what makes it a real, in my opinion, more of on the hobby side. It almost is like more on the crafting side, in my opinion. Okay? The last thing that I'll say about these sprues is keep them. Don't throw them away. Just stick them in a bag, stick them in a box somewhere, throw them in a closet. The reason why I say that is you may not want to do that now, but I promise you at some point if you get into this hobby, you're going to want these sprues. Because you can take them and you can put them in a solution, in a jar, and it basically will melt this plastic down to like a gooey putty, and then you can use that plastic to do other things with. Now, hear me and hear me clearly here. I am not advocating that you take this plastic and recast anything that you already have. That is stealing, in my opinion, okay? That is recreating something someone else owns. If it's thing for thing, recasting, that is stealing. Do not do that, okay? Go and purchase the stuff that people own and have put their investment into. What I'm advocating for is a further use of crafting with this material. So you could say, oh, I'm going to create my own ladder. I'm going to create my own barrier. I'm going to create whatever you want. I mean, it basically becomes like a molding putty that you can pour into a mold, or you can hand mold. You can make your bases of your models and do like more things on the bases of your models that you could paint, maybe some like elevated terrain. There is all kinds of cool stuff you can do with this plastic. So keep the plastic. Trust me, at some point you're going to wish you had it to be able to do that further level of, I would say, more advanced crafting in this space. Okay? So that's what I'll say about the sprues. Bear, hold the sprues. Okay, these are going to be the combat gauges we talked about. It's the way that you measure distance in this game. There's also various symbols on this little piece that will, it's a triangle or a square or a circle, and you'll use those for different things to measure height or for distance. Okay, there's two of those, one for each player. I think this is a really nifty little piece to be able to use to gauge. Traditionally, for a game like this, you're going to see people pulling out a ruler. I believe that people that are just used to that will probably figure out what the distances are, and they'll still just use their ruler. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do like the addition of this little tool right here. I think it's pretty awesome. And it's got the skull and symbol on it, and it's got the orc commando knife on it. And when you put them both together, they do fit together, and you'll see the symbol there on the pieces. I just thought that was all done really well, really cool. I'll put that right out here. Actually, we'll put that right out here. And then this is the other piece that you'll find, which is also a tool that you can use to kind of measure, you'll use to measure distance and do different things with as well. And it's got a couple different symbols on it and some skulls and things. It's pretty cool. You are going to find, I do have both of the books here. You're not going to find both of these. You're not going to find this book right here. You're going to find two books in this box. So we'll get that out there separately. I want to make sure that you don't think you get that in the box, because you do not with this version of Killteam. You did with prior ones. So here we've got Warhammer 40,000 Killteam core book. So this is going to be your core book. It's about that thick. You see there? It is nice. It's not a hardback by any means, soft cover book, but it's got a really nice front, thicker, kind of laminated style page there. And then this is going to give you basically the rules of the game. It's going to give you background on the different forces. It's going to give you all of that. It's going to let you know how to play everything and go through the different styles of gameplay, because there's a number of different styles of gameplay you can do with this. There's a narrative style of gameplay where it's more of like a campaign, like story that you're following along game to game, which I really enjoy. I'm really looking forward to that with this. There's matched play, which is more like even fair to fair sort of play, and there's open play where it's a little bit more open in the way that the teams can be designed and the gameplay goes. So it's just, it's really cool, all the different gameplays that are here's the narrative stuff it's getting into. Oh, I don't want to spoil that because I'm really looking forward to it. But here's the core rulebook you're going to get. And again, don't be off-put by this, like, oh my God, like that's a huge book. Like if you play, there's a lot of board games that have 40, 50-page rule books, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, this is this page. This is over 100 pages. I mean, it's 144 pages. But you're going to have things that you can copy and print out. Your little data cards, narrative data cards. You're going to have backstory, lore, pictures. I mean, there's only a small part that's actually dedicated to the actual rules. Most of this is just other stuff, right? That you're going to want to read. So I'll just, or you can skip it, right? If you just want to go to the rules and say, how do I play? And then get me to the narrative campaign, you can skip around. This here is the Compendium. This is the Compendium. This is the book right here that will give you all the rules for all the other factions across the Warhammer 40k space. Okay, so all the factions that can play in Killteam, there's a bunch of them. This book tells you the rules for that particular type of miniature. So if you wanted to play Death Guard, you could do that. And here's a few pages that show you the rules for those models and how to build a Death Guard kill team. If you wanted to play Thousand Suns, here's the rules. If you wanted to play Chaos Demons, or they even got, Necrons, I'll definitely be doing Necrons. I'll definitely be doing Ultramarines. If you're into Warhammer 40k and you already have some of those models, you can just use those models to play in this game, which is a nice reuse. I'm definitely going to build a Kroot army. That's going to happen. That is going to happen. I'd love to see a new set released literally for this faction. That would be awesome. And you know what? I bet some of those are going to be coming because they have a whole lineup of a ton of little surprises that are going to be released over time that are specific to Killteam. So I guarantee they're going to be coming out with new models, new box sets, specifically aligned to the different. It's probably not going to be for all of them, but man, would it be awesome to get a Kroot? Give me the Kroot! This is not included. This is a separate book. Retails for $50. Okay, it is an expensive book, but it gives you the rules for everything. You may not want everything, so you know, it's up to you if you want to purchase this. I purchased it because I wanted to have the rule set for everything, just in case, depending on what I wanted to do. You don't need this to play the box set or the game. The rules for the Kommandos and the Veteran Guard are in here, so you don't have to buy this for that. Okay, just want to make sure that's clear. Now, I did mention that came in a prior version. In a prior version, the book was a little bit bigger, and it had the core rules, and it had all of them in there. They did separate it out for this version, but they kind of offset it by giving much more terrain, and they did some other things. So that's just something to know that's not included in the box set at all. You have to buy that that book as an extra piece. This is included in the box. It's just like a separation sheet. That's all it does. Doesn't mean anything. There is 2 data card packs in here. So these are going to be the various different, we'll just say, abilities that the 2 different groups are going to have. They've got those printed right here on these cards, so you can very quickly look at those and understand the different options and powers and things that you would have with your group when you're playing the game. So that's handy. They didn't have to do that. They could just say, hey, here's a list of the things you can do, but you actually have the cards right here. They call these data cards, so they have those there. They then include a set of D6 dice. All these games just use D6. You don't have to have any of the other style of dice. It's just D6, so if you want more of these dice or you want to play a game like this, just get you a handful of D6 dice and you're good to go. The ones that are included in here are orange, as you can see here, with little black pips. And they're actually a very high quality die. I really like this die. They've got fantastic weight, and they have a really good sort of a powdery covering look to them. They don't just look like regular cheesy shiny dice. Like they have a real quality look to them. I love these dice. I probably will end up buying more of those because I want dice that have that same look and style. You then will have the bases. All of these models here will come with a little base they'll be attached to right here in this bag. There's a number of different sizes. You then will get this book, which is your, you can think of this as kind of like your campaign or your storybook you'll find in here. In this book, you'll go through, you'll find the information for your orcs and your veteran guard, and you'll find those data sheets and the setups for each one of them like you do in your larger book here that was the extra purchase for all the other different factions. So that's what you'll find here in this book, is just for the ones that are included, as well as at the back you've got your various different missions you can go on. So there's different missions in this book they'll give you to make the game. You know, you got the open play, but then you've got kind of the narrative play where you can go through and do, well, even with the open and the match play, you can do missions, but it just gives you a, hey, you got to try to achieve this objective versus just a go in and it's the last person standing winner, right? It's a little bit more fun, in my opinion, to play where it's like you got to achieve some like you got to get to this little junk pile and get a special, you know, capacitor, and then you got to move it back over here to this area and attach it to this door, and the door, like, I'm just making this up, but that's kind of how these missions will work, where you have to interact with various pieces of terrain, or you have to do certain things objective point wise versus just go in and kill everybody, right? That just seems a little lame to me, to just go in and kill everybody. It's much more fun to have strategic objectives that you have to achieve over the course of gameplay. You're also going to get this sheet here, which is all of the tokens. And I've purposely not opened any of these things, so you can see how it comes. These are all the tokens in the game you'll use. There's aftermarket stuff for this as well. You could also use your own stuff for these too. There are plastic of these things that are sold. There's a lot of aftermarket things, but I thought the tokens were really nice. They're decently thick. They could have been a little bit thicker, to tell you the truth, but these are pretty thick tokens. They're definitely thick enough for my taste, and they're gonna last a long time and do exactly what they need to do. Right? They're just gonna mark various different things, like you can see, you know, healing and movement and bombs and you know, crate and different things for like missions and whatnot, or you want to drop an aerial strike, or I don't know, so whatever the missions have, you're going to find that here on these tokens. That's what that's going to be used for. And then, which is really awesome, and frankly unnecessary, so I'm glad that it's included, is this right here. And this actually opens up, so it's much larger than this. It opens up. And it is a game board that's included that you can put down on your table and have a full game board that you can set up all your terrain on, and it just adds more to that thematic feel for what you're doing there and what you're going through and playing this game. And I think it's really awesome, and the detail of it is pretty high. I would say, you know, it's not like I'm like, oh my god, the detail's amazing, but it's pretty good. I mean, the detail is pretty good. I mean, it's a really, really high quality print. You can see like the little details of the rocks and everything in this, so I am impressed with it. I don't think it's over the top, but it is really good. So don't get me wrong there. Definitely impressed. All the little shadows and nooks and crannies of the rock. I mean, it's really cool. And these are a very thick, high quality cardboard board as well. Okay. That's what you're going to get here. Also, as you buy more of these sets, if you choose to, you can use these in your Warhammer 40K games as well, if you want to. Now, that requires a much larger area, but you can use these boards. And that's one thing you got to think about when you invest, because it is an investment. These things carry a little bit of a higher cost compared to your standard $50, $60 board game. These carry a much higher cost generally. So it is an investment to be made, but it's an investment that's going to last a long time. It's an investment that's going to come with that hobby and that crafting part we talked about, and it's an investment that's going to be able to be reused. Especially if you play Warhammer 40K, you could reuse this stuff in anything. You could reuse these models, these terrain pieces in board games. You could reuse this board in board games or tabletop RPG games. Any of this stuff can be reused in any of those areas. Right? So that's something to know as well. That's part of the value of what you're paying for. And the last thing you're going to find here in the box is these transfer decals. Again, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but they do give you all these tiny little decals. If you do this, you're going to need probably a little set of tweezers. They do make special tweezers for doing these decals you can find online. Again, very cheap. Cut them out, you get them little tweezers, you pull off the decal, and you stick it on your model. Okay, just going to add a little bit more flair to your model, and they all do mean different things. So you will kind of have to understand what these things mean, and it will detail what these things mean in the books. You'll find things in the books about, you know, what these various different symbols mean. It really gets into the class, and that's what's cool about Killteam is like various different units play almost different classes. Like someone's a sniper class or a demo class or a, you know, whatever, right? It's like the units have different functions they play in this particular game, which is also really cool. Okay, so it feels very squad based when you're going in to do your mission. Okay, that's what you'll find here with these decals, and that's everything that's included in the box. You'll see there the bottom of the box, nothing else is in the box. That's it. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about before we end this video, because, again, this was sort of the intro to what this is and what you're getting into. The last thing we'll talk about, and I swear to God, I don't want to hear it in the comments. I don't want to hear it, okay? There are a number of ways that you can put these models together. There are also very strong opinions on what those ways should be. And I don't really care one way or the other. But I personally, for no other reason than I've always done it this way and it's worked really well, I just use standard super glue, okay? I use standard gel, not liquid, gel super glue to put my models together. It paints well, it holds well. I have never had a model, Games Workshop or anything else, and again, I'm getting kind of back in hardcore to the Games Workshop stuff here within the last year, but I have plenty enough games and plenty enough things that needed to be built by Sprue and painted. I have never had a problem with just standard old super glue, okay? So that's what I use. It's cheap, it's effective, it works. There are other types of super glue that you can use. There are plastic glues. There are different ways to put your stuff together. A lot of times, people will use those harsher types of glues to do the terrain. Super glue, right on the terrain. That's what I use, okay? And I promise you, I'm not going to do it, okay? But because I've done it before. I've done it before. I promise you, I could drop this literally from like this height after it is glued, painted, primed, painted, sealed. It will not break, okay? This thing is stuck together like a rock, okay? I don't want to hear it, all right? If you do have other options and other ways of how you put your stuff together, if you use something different than standard super glue, feel free to put that down in the comments to educate folks, but I don't want to hear the comments of like, you shouldn't do super glue or it's I don't want to hear it because I've done it for years and it works perfect, okay? All right. That's enough about the super glue. This is not a video about super glue. All right, but you are going to have to do that with these. Once you get them cut out of the sprue, just like the terrain, you're going to put a tiny little amount of glue. You're going to push that piece together. Then I take a paper towel very quickly and I wipe around the area to make sure that it doesn't like ooze out, right? I make it smooth, and then I hold it there, you know, like you would with any super glue. 5 to 10 seconds, whatever you need to, and then make sure it's secure, let it go, next piece. All right. Again, it's part of the hobby. It's what you're going to have to do to put these models together. All right. That's everything that we're going to talk about in the first video. The second video is going to be more about getting these out of the sprues. What do these units look like? And we're going to get into a little bit of the painting aspect of this as well. How you can go about painting these models. There's quick ways. There's much more detailed ways. But that's all going to be covered in the second video, so stay tuned for that. And then in the third video, we're going to get this on the table and start playing us some Killteam Octarius. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team. Keep rolling them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.